These are all the reactions you may have to a new catalogue, okay? I've been doing this for nearly 12 years, and every year it's the same emotions. It's surprise, it's delight, it's disappointment, it's anger. It's a bit like grief, everybody. Just warning you. So if you've never experienced, perhaps as a demonstrator or as a customer, the new catalogue process, I'm just here to give you a few tips. Okay, hello, my name's Ruth. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to dive straight in, not going to do too much chit chat. If you have got questions on the live, please put question in capital letters and put your question, and I'll review the questions at the end. And then of course, if you've got any comments or questions after the live, then please do put them in the comment section and I will get back to you. Right, so I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator, and that means that I get to see a Stampin' Up product ahead of time, approximately a month, sometimes a little bit ahead of when the general release goes to the public. So that means that you may have a friend who's a demonstrator. You may be a demonstrator yourself, and you're about to, experience the full gamut of emotions that they may feel when seeing the catalogue for the first time. This is because as we make way for new products, we have to say goodbye to old ones. And for some people, that's really hard because you may have some absolute favourites in there that you don't, you can't bear not to see in that catalogue. Why aren't they in the catalogue anymore? Okay. But it's okay. If you loved that product and you've got it, you've got that product forever until you decide to give it away or sell it, or, whatever happens. So I'm just here to give you a few tips as to how to get through this process and how to navigate the next few months. So if you're a customer, please don't panic. You have, as soon as you hear from your demonstrator, the list is about to come out, the list of products that are retiring, go through them, go back through your catalogue. Now, if you've had your catalogue for a number of months, it may be that you've already put ticks against certain products that you wanted to buy anyway. And now's a really good opportunity to go back through your catalogue and say, oh, I've been meaning to order that product. I better get it before it goes. Or you may approach it and go, actually, I thought I needed it, but I don't now. But that's okay. But perhaps I will stock up on, my favourite coloured cardstock, okay? Or my favourite other type of thing. So if you're a customer, or if you're a demonstrator that buys just for your, for your personal use, or you're perhaps a card maker and you love a particular thing, then now's the time. The next month is the time to place those orders for items that you think may be going. Now, it's very tempting if you're a demonstrator, when you see that new product catalogue, and to kind of think a little bit ahead and go, oh, but I want this, 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 and this. I'm not going to have the budget to do that. Remember that the new catalogue is going to be around for another 12 months from the beginning of May. So if you do have favourites that you want to purchase, you've got a very long time, you've got a whole year to purchase them in. So there's no rush to start buying the new products in. Focus on what is leaving, what it is that you wanted to get into your collection, and then just, get those final orders in April. The sooner you can order, the better, because there will be some products that will go out of stock. Stampin' Up always state that any products in their catalogues are while stocks last. Okay, this is not something new that Stampin' Up has introduced. It's the same for most companies. You wouldn't expect, I don't know, a clothing store to be stocking clothes from 5 years ago. There's new trends, there's new seasons, and even their staple products, like, I don't know, knickers and bras, they come out with new colours, they come out with new designs. So that is the same for Stampin' Up. So what's the second thing I wanted to say to you? Yeah, so I always say, just take a deep breath. When you see that new catalogue, it's I suppose there's two types of people. There's those who are going to focus on, oh my goodness, what's leaving us, and those who are going to focus on, oh, but there's this new, there's that, there's this new thing coming. And I guess you have to strike this happy balance between the two sort of feelings, really, of things that may not be available anymore and things that are. Now, as I said a few minutes ago, if you have those products already, if you're a demonstrator, there's absolutely no reason why you have to get rid of them. This is something that I've been constantly arguing against on kind of, you may have heard me say it in lives and on social media. There's this myth that I think goes round that if you are a demonstrator, you're almost, it's like you're not allowed to have any, prior products. You're not allowed to have retired products. And that is just not true. There's no rule, there's no Stampin' Up contract that you sign that says that. Nowhere. All right? It's just, I've looked through the independent demonstrator agreement. It doesn't say you cannot have old products or retired products. If you're a demonstrator and you're a maker and a creator, you keep whatever you want to keep. If you love, I don't know, stippled blossoms from a few years ago, and me, keep it, use it, love it. All right. Stampin' Up is a fantastic company and have come up with designs that have been popular, that have been beautiful. Use them. All right. There's no reason why you can't use them. However, and this is the big however, if you are a demonstrator that is eager to sell to the public or sell to their friends, then it's sensible to only demonstrate products that are current. Because if you demonstrate a product that people can't get anymore, there's this level of frustration that you're creating with a potential new customer. And that is why a lot of Stampin' Up demonstrators will say, oh, I only ever use new products. And occasionally I do slip in old products just to remind you that if there's something you really love, please go and buy it now. Don't wait until, this time of year where you're thinking, oh, will it still be there? Will it not be there? If you love it, buy it. Now, having said that, there's a thriving second-hand market for retired products. As a demonstrator, I'm only allowed to sell retired products on places like eBay, Facebook, through, like if I have a Stampin' Up event where I've got retired products available, I am allowed to sell them as a retired product. And if you come across people selling current products who are demonstrators on any of those platforms, they're actually going against their independent demonstrator agreement. And that agreement has been around all the time that I've been a demonstrator. It's not a new thing. They should not be doing it. And that rule is there to protect us as demonstrators, because sales from that catalogue is my bread and butter. It's the pennies that I earn from the hard work and hours of demonstrating that I do, and the practicing with product, the development of projects that I get to share with you. So just please do bear that in mind. So just to sort of sum up that point then, yes, demonstrators can use retired products. I have demonstrators in my team who are demonstrators because they like to get the discount and they love everything that they've ever bought and they're never ever getting rid of it. I have demonstrators in my team who like to sell to folks occasionally. They're not aiming to be running a business, but they like to sell to friends. And then there's people like me who, I make more of an effort to sell to the public, and so I'm a bit more mindful of what I show you. All right, so what was the other point I was going to make? Hello everybody in the chat, by the way. I get rid of nothing, says Mary. There we go. And that's absolutely fine. Absolutely. So the other point I was going to make was to do with new colours. Okay, so this again can cause some emotional reactions in people because everyone's got their favourite colours and don't want to see them go. But like, as I mentioned, other industries, there's fashion industries, there's, home decor industries, where new colours have to come in. There has to be a refreshment of colour palettes. And I think if we were all walking around wearing the colour palette of, say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it would look very different than today. So there has to be that kind of change around. Now, I hope those of you who are my customers, I would have started back in January or February saying, please buy your re-inkers to any in colours that are leaving this year. Now, this time around, as soon as we find out what colours are retiring, I would suggest to you, please order re-inkers for your favourite colours that you will want to keep a hold of, because again, it can be quite difficult, even on the second-hand market, to get those re-inkers. Whenever I look on Facebook groups of people who put up re-inkers for sale, they get snapped up really, really quickly. So please do stock up. Then again, take a deep breath. I'm very into taking deep breaths. And it's more that just to take a pause, just to kind of calm yourself and go, okay, what's really important here? Okay. And I think I did think of a point earlier that I'm going to express now, which is Stampin' Up, the employees they have there who work on the choices of colours and on the graphics, that whole department of people, the whole company, they've been doing it for over 30 years now. They know what they're doing. And I've said this publicly before, and I will say it again. One of my team is a graphic designer, and right at the beginning of her Stampin' Up journey, she said to me, those guys at Stampin' Up, they know what they're doing. They choose colours very, very carefully. And if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you will know that I'm a colour fiend. I love colour. I love using it. I love mixing it up. There are very few occasions where I go, ooh, I don't like that colour with this colour in certain contexts. But most of the time, I love all the colours that Stampin' Up provide, and I'm very much into combining different colour palettes or creating colour palettes. So please trust that whatever decision Stampin' Up have made in terms of colours that will be retiring and colours that will be coming in, they've based that on market trends, on what works well together, their forecast for the next 5 years, maybe what the trends that are coming, what sells well, what doesn't sell well. Now, I was in a recent meeting, a leaders Zoom meeting, where someone from that department or someone who could speak to that, sorry, they may have not come from that department, so I've got to be careful what I say, but who could speak to that, was giving all the lists of the most unpopular colours in the different markets. Now, what was interesting about when they told us those colours, they were all kind of 3 different colours, she did say that just because something doesn't sell well, it doesn't mean we're going to get rid of it. And that's because of where it might sit on the colour palette. For example, I don't know, let's take Daffodil Delight. I mean, why no one would like Daffodil Delight, I don't know, but I'm just using that as an example. Daffodil Delight is probably the closest thing we have to a true yellow in our colour palette. Now, if Daffodil Delight, if it was to sell, not sell cardstock very much, not sell ink very much, it's not a colour that Stampin' Up would just get rid of and not replace with another yellow, because it's an integral part to the whole colour palette. So Stampin' Up make very careful decisions based on, we've got to create designer series paper. So there's, some designer series paper needs yellow in it. So they're going to have a yellow in there. So if they do replace any primary colours, they will do that very carefully. And all the colours, they'll do it very, very carefully. Right, what was the other point I was going to make? I can't think of anything right now. I hope that some of the stuff that I've said has been helpful. If you've got any questions, now's the time to ask. And I'm going to have a quick look back on the chat and see if there's anything that you've asked me. Okay, while you're writing the questions, I will suggest what I tend to suggest with most people, and something that I do is when I get a new catalogue. So as soon as you get the new catalogue in your hands, this is the current one, if you can get some kind of like sticky post-it notes or whatever, the first thing I do is I go through the catalogue page by page and I put sticky notes against the items that stand out to me, the things that kind of make me go, oh yes, I really like that, or I can see myself using that. So this is me as a demonstrator saying this. So I will go through and I will sticky note everything. And then I will probably have quite a few conversations with my fellow demonstrators, with you know, people in my team, and also look at those kind of little hidden corners of the annual catalogue. All right, guarantee you, if you're going through the catalogue with a group of friends, someone will go, oh, did you see such and such? Like, for example, a few years ago, it was like adhesive sheets. Did you see the adhesive sheets? Or a few years ago, it may have been, re-ink, you know, ink spots that you can ink for yourself. Now, how many of you actually even know that they're there? Okay, because hidden in some of those little on those pages, you know, Stampin' Up! Have to make very strategic choices about how big to have a photograph of something or how big to have the wording. So you need to look through every single description and so forth. Now, Stampin' Up! Do make it helpful in that if there is a new product, I think they put the word, oh yes, they did this year, the word, sorry, not the word, the letter N. And this last catalogue, it was in like a pink box. Okay, if there is a new product, usually they will denote it with the letter N. So that's the thing to look for. Go, oh, where's the N's? Where is the new product? So I will go through, just post-it note, whatever, sticky note it. Then what I tend to do is I then will write a list and then add it up and go, oh, I can't spend all that straight away, which is fine. And then I put an order in to what I can afford at the time. Now, if you're a demonstrator and perhaps you have been a demonstrator and did well during celebration, then Stampin' Up! Will have sent you some Stampin' Rewards. Go check out the Stampin' Rewards. Find out how many you've got before you place that order. Also, just a tip, if you're a demonstrator, use your Stampin' Rewards to buy catalogues. All right, I cannot stress that enough. When you purchase catalogues, you do not get reward points for them. Stampin' Up! Does not reward you like they do with product. So do not spend your Stampin' Rewards on product if you can help it. Buy your catalogues first. All right, and this is the time to start asking your customers, who wants a catalogue? You know, who's up for one? Now, just a brief word on the catalogue, just to remind you, especially if you're a new demonstrator, you cannot show or take photographs and put them on the internet of the inside of any new catalogue until the date that it is released. All right, there's licensing and copyright issues and stuff like that to do with it. Please do not do that. Okay, you're allowed to show the front cover, but you are not allowed to do a catalogue run through. You're not allowed to take a photograph of it and put it out on the internet. You're just not allowed to do it. And Stampin' Up! Make that very clear every year or every time there's a new catalogue. Please do not do it. Okay. Okay, see you anyone that's got to go. Yeah, so I make a list and then I have a think about if I do order new products, I would order something like if there's perhaps a stamp set or a whole suite that is speaking to me, where I like the punch or the dies and the papers and the stamps. I may not necessarily buy everything, but I will sometimes buy coordinating product just to make it easier for me to create some samples. The other tip I would give, if you're a demonstrator and you're sending out catalogues to your customers, is think about making a swatch book or swatch bookmark of the new in colours. People love to see what the new colours are, what they actually look like in real life. So some people find it helpful if they've bought the marker pens or if they've got the ink pad to do a stamp of something, and also a swatch of the cardstock. Or with the new Colour Refresh, Stampin' Up! Have said that they will supply like bundles of all the new colours that are kind of coming in. Now, some of those colours that are coming in may be retired in colours from a few years ago. So those of you who've never thrown anything away, you may already have some of them. So you may have to just buy individual ink pads rather than buying the whole refresh bundle. So I would advise that, again, if you've got customers who love colour, perhaps look at purchasing the bundle. If they do the cardstock in a bundle, but you know, buy a pack and you can cut little strips of that just to show your customers. That's a helpful thing to do. Okay, so I know I'm talking loads and I'm really sorry about this. I will try and timestamp later on the topics that I've covered, but I've got to rattle through this. I've had quite a busy day and I've still got more hours of things to do to come, so I'm sorry about this. So on the colour refresh, I just wanted to give you some tips about that. Again, it can be daunting when looking at all the colours that are going and all the colours that are coming in, and when you add up the price of all those ink pads and think, I cannot afford that right now. Some of you may be in that situation. Please don't feel you have to buy all those colours all in one go. All right. First thing to do is, as soon as you know which colours are retiring, I would separate them out from your area. All right. If you're a demonstrator that cares about this sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is probably tonight, as soon as I see, I'm reaching over here because my colour thing is, my ink pads are in this caddy thing. You can't see it. Hold on. There you go. Those are all my ink pads. I will probably take out all the colours that are retiring, just so that I can start getting used to, in my head, what I won't have to work with for the next possibly 5 years. All right. Then, rather than kind of going, oh no, you know, I can't do anything until I've got a new in colour, or new in colours, or new colours coming, is I would look at where the gaps are once you see what's remaining in your collection. So if, for example, this is purely an example, please do not take this as me saying anything specific about any colour. For example, if Daffodil Delight was to retire, and that leaves a gap for you in terms of a nice bright yellow, then maybe you then need to go, right, I need to replace a yellow first, or I need to replace a green, or whatever it is that you feel you've got a gap then in your colour palette. Replace those first. All right. If you have the finances, I would always suggest getting the in colours first, because those only last 2 years, whereas this colour refresh will probably last about 5 or 6 years, which is what the current palette we have, that's been around for 5 or 6 years. So separate everything out. I also tend to do that with my stamp sets and punches. I separate everything out because I actually want to focus on those products for the next few weeks and show people, you know, are you sure you don't want this just yet? You know, you may have had it on your list. You know, now's the time to get it if you really want it. So it's kind of my way of showcasing it and going, you know, this is the potential. And it may be that you decide, no, I definitely don't want it. It's not something I'm interested in. Or you might say, actually, that is something I'd like to add to my collection. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, I'm going to look at questions if there are any. And hey, alive while I'm awake. Hi Louise. Hi Mindy, Mary, Susan, Deb, Valerie, Gina, Annie. Hello, I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions. Hi Janice, she's got a class tonight. Fantastic. You're excited for a change. Me too. Yeah, me too. I always want everything, says Gina. I get rid of nothing, says Mary. I've kept everything since 1997. I need. I love it. Well, I make sure I have enough stocked up for my favourite colours. Yes, good point. I buy re-inkers with all my colours and markers. Good tip. Yeah, that is my tip. Years ago, when I didn't have so much free money to spend. You know, early in my early days while starting as a demonstrator, you know, I had to really count the pennies carefully. I wouldn't perhaps invest in the ink pads and or the packs of colour, for example. But if you can afford to get the pack of ink pads and a pack of the mixture, so you can buy a combined pack of all the ink colours rather than, you know, one of each, that is something I would highly recommend. What's important to me is that I can use my DSP with the colours I have. That's a really good point. Yeah. You still have re-inkers from Pretty Peacock. Oh. Oh, you're welcome, Valerie. I did exactly this when I saw the embossing buddy and bundle back again. Ah, okay. I knew there was a reason I couldn't sleep at 4:23. Hi, Shirley. Nice to see you. Yeah. Martina's a great customer for Martina. She really is. Yeah. Sahara. What? Who's heard that Sahara Sand is leaving? I've not heard that. Ooh, maybe you guys know stuff that I don't know. Unless the retirement list is out already. That may have happened. I don't know if this retirement list is out in other markets yet. Is the retirement list out then? I must have missed that. Yes, as soon as the retiring lists are posted, things start selling out immediately. Absolutely. Question, do the re-inkers have an expiration date? Do they actually go bad, or can you keep them for a good while? I don't seem to have had as many problems as some people have had with re-inkers and ink pads, but there is some new information that's coming through about it re-inkers, and I think they're saying, just like say foodstuffs or makeup, there is some chemical degradation that does happen. They have not got a lifetime guarantee. They I guess they just couldn't give it, because, and also they have to account for different temperatures of storage as well. So I can't speak on behalf of Stampin' Up what you've just asked me, Valerie, but I believe there's going to be some further information coming out to do with that. And I guess I would say enjoy it while you've got it. You know, if you've got ink pads that you're enjoying using, just use them. And if, I don't know, a few years down the line, a colour goes a bit weird and dries up, you know what, there's probably another colour to replace it. You know, I think I'm trying to learn to let go of things and go, you know what, it's yes, it'd be lovely to have whatever colour from years ago, but I've had to kind of like move on and go, well, there's something similar, you know, like, I don't know, Peacock, Pretty Peacock was quite similar to Tranquil Tide in some respects. Mossy Meadow and what's that one? Someone mentioned the other day, the Always Artichoke, you know, similar-ish, it'll do, you know. So, you know, when you actually really think about colours, there's an infinitesimal amount of colours out there in the world. I mean, beyond what we could ever, you know, think of. And so, yeah, and to create those in a chemical, you know, because they have to be created chemically. They're synthetic dyes. There's a whole science to it that I don't understand. So yeah, there we go. Oh, thanks to Linda. Oh, that's another good point, Annie. Thank you for reminding me about that. Yeah, so the other point I was going to make was, if you can't afford to buy all the ink pads at once, is buy the marker pens. All right, buy the markers, because you can colour in your stamps and stamp with the marker pen. Now, the other point I was going to make on this was, you have to ask yourself, what type of crafter are you? Because there are some of you who love colouring in images. That's a bit different from how I create. So me going on and on about ink pads, it may not interest you at all, ink pads. It might be that marker pens and the alcohol pens, that's more your thing. So sometimes you do have to just take stock and go, just because I think Ruth's work, for example, is really lovely, that's not my style. And so I don't need to have every ink pad like Ruth does, because she's a demonstrator, one. But secondly, I'm not as mad as her on colour. But I do love colouring. So you may decide to focus on the alcohol pens and kind of keep that collection going. So yeah, thank you for that, reminding me about the pens. Okay, that's a good idea, Martina. All of our products freeze in transport here in the winter. I'm sure that affects the inks. That's so interesting. Yeah. I've also taken old dry ink pads from a long time ago and just bought a new colour re-inker and made a new ink pad. New pad. Okay. So one thing I have heard them say is that ideally do not put new re-inker on an old ink pad that still has the old ink pad chemicals in it. So you need to wash it out. I'm saying you need to wash it out first. They weren't saying that. All they were saying is that sometimes you can get a reaction from a newer ink re-inker and the previous ink that was on the ink pad. Now, some of you may remember a few years ago, they redid some of the inks because they introduced a defoamer. I don't know if some of you remember that. And that seemed to cause some issues with some people. And then people were complaining about the bubbling. So they had to kind of work on that. So they're, even though we may have got, I don't know, say Calypso Coral, you know, you may have had the re-inker for a couple of years, and then you may have had a re-inker from, say, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, as I do. Those re-inkers apparently don't always work, you know, the new formulas don't always work well together. So I guess going forward, I'm wondering, so this is not me stating fact, this is me wondering whether if you do go to re-ink a ink pad that has had ink in it from a number of years ago and you've bought a new re-inker, it might be advantageous to completely wash that ink pad out and then add ink, a completely new amount of ink. I'm sorry about the lighting, guys. It suddenly got quite dark in here. I don't know if I can switch my light on. Ooh, it will calm down in a second. Okay, I had a... Yes, exactly, Paula. Yes, different formulation, Nessa. Yeah. How many colours do they refresh usually? It varies, Deb. Yeah, I think last time it was something like, I want to say 13 and 15, but it could have been as much as 16 or something. I can tell you what probably came in. I mean, interested. Okay, I won't do that right now because I'm going to have to go. But like, for example, the last refresh, we had Flirty Flamingo was an in colour one day and then came back in the refresh the next day. So it didn't retire. Years ago, Mint Macaron was an in colour. I can tell you ones that were in colours that have come back in. So Flirty Flamingo, Mint Macaron, Pool Party, and maybe Coastal Cabana. Poppy Parade was an in colour when I first was a demonstrator. Blackberry Bliss. And Mossy Meadow. They were in colours that then got brought back. So I'm kind of excited to see what colours may come back, if any, you know. And so I don't think I'm alone in saying that we are desperate for a nice pink. Polished pink is lovely and bright, but we could do with another pink, I think. and I am not alone. I've heard so many people say this across the socials. I would love Fresh Fuchsia to become permanent. Shaz, have you looked at the graphics for the okay, I'm going to be very careful not to give anything away here, but Shaz, just look at the graphics in the demo, on the demo site for the Creativity Now event that's happening in June. There we go. Yeah, Fresh Fuchsia is beautiful. Yeah, and it sits really nicely. And another yellow. Oh, great. Right, guys, I'd love to carry on this discussion. Maybe we'll come back a bit later and do that. So my evening, as I said, is going to be quite busy. So I'm going out for a meeting at church. Then the new catalogue is launching at 8 o'clock. But I'm going to be in church, so I'm not going to be able to see it until 9. And then I have a Zoom event with my team. And then I will try and come on live. Obviously I can't show you anything, but I can talk about things, and I will possibly talk about if there are any sort of products that are going that I feel that you really need to know about. Maybe I'll kind of mention those. All right, because sometimes there are products going that even I'm like, why is that going? What are they thinking? Get it now. So I will come back. 8 o'clock, yeah. So 9 o'clock your time, Martina. I sent you the Zoom link. Right. Great to see you all. I hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions about anything I've said, please just message me or put it in the comments. 8 o'clock UK time, so that's 9 o'clock Europe time, Martina. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys later. Toodles, Mr. Linda. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I'm sorry to I'm not going to say sorry. I know today's video was a bit different, but it was one that I was promising that I was going to do, so I wanted just to get on and do it while my ideas were fresh. And if you can think of any other suggestions that you want to throw in the mix, then please do. Lots of love, everybody.